The crimes of serial killers have often been romanticized by the media, especially in cases where the victims are quite numerous and the murders are carried out in a gruesome fashion. In this video we'll be looking at some of the most horrific serial killers of their time, showing the limitless levels of evil some people are capable of. This is 5 of the worst known serial killers in history. Number 5. Ed Gaine. After growing up in a terrible household where his alcoholic father would regularly abuse the young Ed, he would form a strange relationship with his mentally ill mother, who would instill a hatred in him for other women and any intimate relations. Gradually over a 5-year period, Gaine's family members would slowly die one by one. After the death of Ed's mother, he would finally snap and begin his deranged killing spree. Ed Gaine would pick up women from local bars and bring them home to carry out the murder of the unsuspecting women. He would dismember his victims and turn them into everyday household objects including cups, vests, and cooking utensils. Ed Gaine was caught by police in 1957, when a hardware store owner went missing who was last seen with the deranged murderer. He was convicted of 11 murders in total, and after being diagnosed with schizophrenia rendering him unfit for trial, Gaine would spend the rest of his days in a mental hospital until he died in 1984. The horrific crimes of Ed Gaine fueled the imagination of many movie makers, leading to the creation of such movies as Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number 4. Pedro Lopez. Pedro Lopez is currently linked to over 300 murders in his native Colombia and in Peru, as well as many in Ecuador. At least 1/3 of the murders were tribal women who lived in the dense jungle wilderness nearby. Lopez was arrested in 1980 when an attempted abduction was foiled and he was detained by some local market traders. After Lopez's arrest, police found the graves of more than 50 of his often young victims, and he was later convicted of murdering around 110 girls in Ecuador and confessed to another 240 murders in Colombia and Peru. Lopez would barely spend 20 years in prison, because in 1998, shortly after a CNN interview, he was released and given his freedom due to good behavior. It's been more than 20 years since his release, and his whereabouts at present day remains unknown. Pedro is one of the most infamous serial killers, and he still might be out in the world to this very day. Number 3. Jack the Ripper. In 1888, an unknown killer prowled the Whitechapel district of London, with prostitutes being the main target of the killer. He would lure prostitutes to join him in a secluded place at night, then kill them brutally, mutilating the bodies of the women by slitting their throats with a carving knife. The serial killer became notoriously known as Jack the Ripper, as he would cut open their bodies on the streets, leaving the horrible scene visible to the public once the new day dawned. A media frenzy broke out when 5 such mutilated bodies were found butchered in the downtrodden East End district. Police would scour the city looking for this madman, all while he sent them taunting mails telling them how he lured and killed his victims with surprising detail. The Ripper would kill his last victim and suddenly disappear, leaving a body count of approximately 100 women over 6 months. No one knows to this day whom the actual Jack the Ripper was, however it's a popular belief that he might have been a butcher or surgeon, considering the surgical accuracy he used on his victims during the brutal murders. Number 2. Henry Howard Holmes. In 1886, Henry Holmes adopted the name Dr. H. H. Holmes and started working as a pharmacist. During his practice as a pharmacist, Holmes began to murder his victims for their properties, and with his newfound wealth, he built a 3-story inn that he referred to as his murder castle. The murder castle was a torture cell that was fully equipped with gas lines, trap doors and soundproof rooms, with an intricate maze that no victim could dream of escaping. He had installed a surgical table and a medieval rack in his basement to torture the supposed patrons of his inn, like some sort of sick parody of a haunted house at a fair. Holmes's primary victims were women. He would lure them into his murder castle, where he would suffocate and kill them with poisonous gas. After killing the victims, he would cut them open, cremate them in the burner, or sometimes skin them and sell their skeletons to medical schools. The killing spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston on November 17, 1894. His co-conspirator had informed police of his malpractice, as Holmes had owed him money and was about to flee the country. Dr. Holmes had a chilling confession to the police where he stated, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. His co-conspirator had been pardoned for informing on the killer, and the police charged Holmes for 4 murders. However, he confessed to killing 27 people, and it's believed that more than 200 people were killed in his sadistic murder castle. The castle itself was mysteriously gutted by fire in August 1895, and in 1896, Dr. Holmes was hanged to death. Number 1. Harold Shipman. Often known as Dr. Death, Dr. Harold Shipman is believed to have killed at least 218 of his patients, with the total number likely being closer to 250. In 1972, this lunatic doctor operated in London City, and in 1998 worked in 2 different offices, killing his unsuspecting patients and listing their cause of death as natural causes. He wasn't investigated until reports arose from many people, including the local undertaker, who was surprised by the sheer number of cremation certificates Shipman was signing. However, the police mishandled the investigation, allowing Shipman to keep killing until he got too greedy. Shipman's last victim was Kathleen Grundy, who was found dead at her home on the 24th of June 1998. He had signed her death certificate, recording the cause of death as old age. Grundy's daughter Angela Woodruff became concerned when solicitor Brian Burgess informed her that a will had been made, apparently by her own mother, that excluded herself and her children from the will, but left £386,000 to Dr. Shipman. He was finally convicted in the year 2000, and committed suicide while in prison in 2004. Hanging himself in his cell at 6:20 a.m. on the 13th of January, the eve of his 58th birthday, officially ending his killing spree forever. That was 5 of the worst known serial killers in history. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one.